like to talk today about emotions. And I really feel like our emotions are a gateway to enlightenment, to higher levels of consciousness. That the most enlightened masters on this planet or who have lived on this planet really just had the greatest relationship with their moments. And I think when we relate to enlightenment from how deeply am I loving and caring and welcoming of my emotions rather than avoiding, trying to check out, trying to find something else to focus on other than what's overwhelming me in my feelings. And sometimes we do need little distractions just to help us get through the moment. But if we find there's certain emotions that we go, oh, I feel this, I need to smoke weed, I need a cigarette, I'm gonna binge watch some shows for 5 hours because I don't want to feel how I feel. That's usually a good sign that the parts of our inner child that are still healing and maturing are continuing to play out patterns that are serving our addictions rather than serving our evolution. And we all have different journeys through that. And I'm someone who was was really addicted to technology, addicted to pornography through high school, and was kind of starting to find my way out of it during college. And even after college, you still have days or you kind of fall back into a pattern and then you fall out of it. And it definitely was a slow journey for me. And even now, like sometimes I'm pretty good about it now. I deleted Instagram off my phone 2 weeks ago, and that really has helped so much. But every now and then I still catch myself scrolling on my phone a little. And I'm not someone that has a TV or really watches TV, but yeah, it's a journey, and it doesn't our healing from any patterns or addictions doesn't happen overnight. But when we're thinking about our emotions, oftentimes the avoidance of feelings is one of the things that fuels our addictions. I would say the other thing is our unworthiness, our wounds from our past, which kind of pain is an emotion. So kind of also part of the spectrum. And and the third one is just our familiarity with toxicity, our familiarity with things that maybe are soothing but are actually toxic for our body, and how familiar we are with toxic energies based on how toxic our upbringing was, right? If we become really familiar with toxic communication, toxic levels of relating to others, we're then, by how we were raised, we are then going to be attracted to things that are toxic or addictive or soothing but not really good for our body in adulthood, because that's what's familiar is toxicity, not well-being, not love, not care. And we learn as we love and care for our emotions, rather than saying I don't care about them and trying to find something to check out. We learn that if the deepest relationships with my emotions is actually what creates the greatest space, peace, harmony within my body, and is actually what frees me from all my patterns the moment I start to really welcome my pain, welcome my emotions, rather than saying I don't want to feel this, I don't want to experience this, and trying to then find something that helps me not experience it. And when we are thinking about addiction, oftentimes the things we are addicted to are either helping us not feel, or they're helping deepen our breath. And a lot of times things like smoking, sex, even taking certain types of downers, our breath slows. And what we're really craving is our connection to our breath, which is our connection to our life force energy, our connection to our power, rather. And we use substances as a way of feeling our breath for a second, or feeling more connected to the breath, which is our life, which is well-being. And that's why things like smoking are soothing, because while smoking is toxic, you take slow hits of your cigarette, you feel the greater life energy that is flowing through you through the taking slow breaths, and it helps you feel more connected to what you really desire, which is life, which is love, which are all frequencies held within our breath. And when we're thinking about our breath, I would say your breath really is what you are. That when you die, what's the first thing to leave? Your breath. And your breath is the life force energy bringing your body to life, and what we are is life force energy. And when we breathe deeply, when we do pranayama, when we do breath work, we're filling our body up with greater life. And it's something I've really noticed having a couple injuries in my body and having a couple symptoms in my body, is that when I do breath work, my injuries, my symptoms always feel better. And breath work is one of the most powerful medicines on the planet. And it's something that's not going to knock you out of balance most of the time. I mean, if you did like 3 hours of breath work, if you did like an hour of breath work, you're probably going to need like 20 to 30 minutes to settle down again and to integrate all that energy you just absorbed. But it's something that really doesn't knock us out of balance too much, and is actually one of the most direct ways to heal, from my experience at least. And our breath is a great representation also of interconnectedness. And while we are a body and we are a soul, on the deepest level we are the light, and the light within you is the light within all. And the light that illuminates the whole universe is the same light that illuminates your singular body and soul. And it's not, and you can think about it as it's not just like a focal point of light within me, but it's actually a web of light. And the web of light within the entire universe, the web of light that connects me to all, is also the exact same web of light. The web of light that's in the universe is the same entire web of light that was within me. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm, and our breath is remembrance of interconnection, because the air you breathe is connected to all air. and when you're breathing deeply, you are breathing in the power of all. And when you are breathing more shallow, you are reminding your nervous system of other times you were breathing shallow, which were usually times when we are acting from less conscious place, or we're in a little bit more of survival states. And it's okay however we breathe. We don't have to feel guilty about it, but can we be a little bit more aware of our breath as we go through our day? And when we feel like we are searching, where we feel like something we need to soothe us, can we just take a couple deep breaths, maybe 5 deep breaths, and notice how we feel? And if it feels good and we might need a little bit more, maybe take 10 deep breaths or 15 deep breaths. But a lot of the times what people really crave is not the pattern, but it's the deepening, is not the addiction, but it's the deepening of their breath. And even when we think about smoking too, just as like a little aside, and this is an insight that I've kind of felt, is like when you're smoking, oftentimes our lungs and our heart is where grief is held. And where are your lungs? But they are in the center of your heart. And when you breathe deeply, you are helping open your heart more. You are helping open your heart to greater love, to greater care, to greater well-being, just by breathing deeply. But also, where our heart is where grief is held, and where what organ is within that heart or center of our chest is our lungs. And our lungs, oftentimes when we have a lot of, like, we're getting pneumonia, bronchitis, it's a sign of often. It's a sign of unprocessed grief. And people that tend to pick up smoking tend to not want to face their grief. And they smoke as a way of trying to silence, suppress, and kind of damage or destroy the grief they don't want to feel. And it's something to be aware of too, is grief something that I'm meant to form a deeper relationship with? And am I using these cigarettes as a way of trying to not feel my grief and also kind of subtly destroying that area of my body and also the grief that's held there? And can I just work on forming a deeper relationship with my grief, which is which is when I feel grief, I love it and I care for it and I welcome it and I care for my body as I go through that experience rather than trying to numb or check out from it. And grief is something that's a rather intense emotion, and if we feel like overwhelmed by grief and we want to turn on the TV for an hour to help us through that overwhelm, I'd say by all means do that, because sometimes little distractions are helpful. And if we're watching TV for an hour, we can still feel the grief and watch whatever's in front of us, and it actually just helps us find stability in a feeling that can be a little kind of like a tornado. I've felt grief where it's just felt like a tornado's ripping through my chest, and in those moments of chaos, it's felt helpful to have something that where I'm focusing on something else and I can still feel it. And that doesn't mean we should binge watch shows for 5 hours, but an hour just to get us through a rather intense up big wave of grief is something that can be helpful, because grief is something that really comes in waves, and it's not something that heals overnight. No matter how much you sing about it, no matter how much you try and express it, grief is something that transforms you over years. And when you have a big loss, it's a long haul. It's no matter how great you are at manifestation, no matter how great you are at trying at relating to your emotions or feeling your experience, grief stays with you for a while, and we learn to welcome the waves rather than judging ourselves for still feeling grief. And when I was thinking about emotions, another part of the talk that I wanted to talk about was karma. And what ties us to past memories and past experiences, or experiences that still influence how we show up in moments, is the emotions we feel around those experiences. And when we are unwilling to face the shame, the guilt, the hurt that we may have caused in another person, it's actually what then can lead to that experience circling back and we experiencing the other side of it. And I wouldn't say, like, the universe is always guiding your life, and whether you re-experience a hurt or a harm that you caused others, whether you never re-experience it, it's just going to be what's perfect for your life. But I would say the way to free ourselves from our past is to feel the feelings we have related to our past. And the less and less emotions we have around past hurts, past harms, past times when we hurt other people, that that as we feel those feelings, we are freeing ourselves from those past memories, because what attaches those memories to keep on coming up and keep on refreshing their pain within our experience is the feelings that are tied to them. And so if we want to be free from our past, it's being willing to feel whatever we feel about our past. And for me, like, there's like a couple examples that are coming to me of things. There's one experience that happened when I was like 5 or 6. I was like throwing rocks in the air, and one of the rocks I threw ended up hitting a kid in the head, and I felt really guilty about it. And then like 5 or 6 years later, a similar experience where I got hit in the head by an ice ball happened, and the two experiences really felt connected to each other. And I think part of the reason why I re-experienced it on the other side was I still felt guilty about hitting that person in the head in the first place. And so if we're willing to fully I'd say express our guilt, feel our guilt, and find, like, writing poems about feeling guilty, we will find greater we will find greater freedom from reoccurring experiences. And it doesn't mean those experiences won't reoccur, and it doesn't mean that they will reoccur. It just means that the person that harms someone has the person that we were when we harmed someone, the harm and pain we feel around that, as we are willing to express our guilt, slowly gets cleared out of us, as well as the memories, and we become more aligned with a person that doesn't harm people, rather than aligned with someone rather than someone that maybe projects out feelings onto others. And another example that was coming to me is that I haven't re-experienced was, like, one time, like, my dad was a hunter, and we used to go hunting together, and I never really got, like, a big game animal. But one time, I actually think I'm not going to use this example, but when we're thinking about guilt, I'd say what ties us to the past is what ties us to the past is our unwillingness to face that guilt, our unwillingness to express our guilt. Okay, I'm just going to share the example because now I feel weird not sharing it. But we were hunting, and I was like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and my dad suggested that we hadn't seen any animals that day, and he suggested, why don't we use the songbirds for target practice? And I ended up shooting a couple songbirds, and I felt so guilty about it. And while that experience hasn't reoccurred in my life, and I don't really know what the karma loop of that would look like, what I've found from the experience is I was 10 or 11 years old, and there isn't something to really feel guilty about that. And even in truth, even though we didn't end up eating the songbirds or something, animals get killed every day. People buy chicken and then never eat it. People buy hamburger meat and throw it out. And is that really any different than killing an animal and not using it? No, it's the same. and there's not, and there, we all have things like that when we were younger that we go, that really wasn't a good choice, and there's no reason to feel guilty about it. And if we express the guilt, it actually is what clears those memories from reoccurring within us, or it clears us, or it helps clear our past from us, and helps clear our attachments to our past, and also to some degree helps clear our karma. And when we are finding emotional freedom, I would say, and we are willing to face our guilt and shame and express it in poetry and song and in dance, however we do that. Also, when we start to clear out the negative feelings that we still are holding on to or don't want to look at, what would it be like to start to focus on a little bit more on positive experiences we've had? Because my mind is wired, and a lot of our minds are wired to focus constantly on what we did wrong rather than what we did right. And what if we took, like, as a little meditation, and this is something I haven't tried too much, but I really feel like there is truth in this, and I heard Lee Harris channel about this and it's something that felt super powerful to me, and I'm hoping that if I teach about it, it'll get me doing the practice a little bit more as well. But what would it be like for 5 minutes out of our day, think about one of the most beautiful moments we experienced? whether that's like a beautiful day we had with a friend, whether that's a beautiful a day where we just feel honored. Maybe it was a birthday and everything we wanted we got. Maybe it was just a hug we shared with someone we really loved, or maybe it was just feeling accepted or welcomed in a way that we hadn't in the past, and someone gave us that gift and it felt so heart touching to experience that. And I would say when we're using this example, we should use things that maybe don't have a lot of a dopamine release, or like a lot of maybe arousal around it, because when we're thinking about arousing situations, it releases those same chemicals in our brain and can be used a little bit like a drug rather than helping grow positive energies within us. And so like if like I would say if it's around like physical intimacy, maybe that wouldn't be a good thing to do for this example, because it probably would just build greater I'm pretty certain it would just build greater fantasies in your mind around physical intimacy rather than actually serving your evolution. But if you can think about a heart-touching moment in your life, or a moment where you felt really cared for or really relaxed, and can you take just 5 minutes out of your day to bring back that memory and see if you can really feel it in your body? Really feel how you felt in that moment. Like you took a friend out to an amazing meal, and afterwards they told you like they felt so honored and they gave you a hug, and it was like such a that's a experience from my life, but it was such a heartfelt moment. And if you can feel it in your body, it's almost like you're growing the energy of that experience within you. And the more you grow energies of love, of care, of bliss, of happiness, of joy, by recalling memories and then re-feeling that experience in our body, it's like the more we're watering the seeds of joy within our body, and the more we water that within our body, it's almost like we're re-experiencing that moment, and the energy grows within us, and we become more like that moment of joy rather than more like our painful past. And the more we grow joy within us, either by taking time to do things that bring us joy, or just remembering moments of incredible joy in our life, the more we will attract more moments of joy to us, because whatever you like is what you attract. And that is real manifestation. And even if you want to try and create something in the future, I think while you should still take action steps towards it, I think it would be a good thing to try. And this would be something that I'd be interested in hearing. If you like, people do comments about it under the video. I know not a lot of people watch these videos, but maybe one day my YouTube channel will get bigger. But is trying things in the future that you want to create. And if like you think about like, oh, I just would love to be, I don't know, win an amateur pickleball tournament. And we imagine beating a person, winning the amateur pickleball tournament. And we really try and feel how that would feel in our body. And then still practicing pickleball and still working to become better. But then does that help create it? And I would say if you're feeling future experiences, you are pulling those possibilities closer to you. And it doesn't mean they will happen, and everything that comes into our life is serving the highest good. And if it wouldn't serve the highest good or your highest good, it won't happen. But I'm someone who used to fantasize about hooking up with people all the time, and those fantasies never came true. And what I realized was it was all because I was relating to it from my mind and it was all because I was relating to it from my mind, and then also the fantasies I had would not have served my highest good either in those moments, because it just would have fed my patterns of craving sex and fantasizing. And so when we're thinking about what we're trying to create, making sure it's something healthy that's actually serving our well-being. And then when we're thinking about it, trying to feel how it would feel in our experience, trying to feel the feelings that we would think we would feel in that moment. And if it's, and growing that experience within us as a way of pulling that possibility a little closer to us. And we can use the past or we can use the future, but the more we become like joy, the more we attract joy to us, the more we become like bliss by just taking time to feel a blissful experience from our past in our life, the more we'll attract more and more bliss to us. And that is real manifestation, and that's real conscious creation of the life we want to live. So, and I got the idea of using it also for the future from Novak Djokovic, which, in regards to tennis, he seems to be doing pretty good at it. So I think there might be some truth of how that it does work. So, thank you for listening. I love you all, and I'm grateful for your attention.